Watching movies, jamming out. K-Flix 198.4 Fiction Radio.
Welcome back to K-Bluff, Bluffington's #1 rock radio station. Hope you enjoyed that hot new single by The Beats, because it's burning up the charts.
Don't you mean K-Flix, Sean?
Ah, shit! Fuck, I got carried away. Sorry about that, buddy.
Did you forget where we were and put yourself in the universe of the show we're talking about?
I think I did. I did.
Yeah.
I got a little carried away with The Beats.
The Beats, that's right. Well, cat's out of the bag. We're talking about The Beats from Nickelodeon's Doug. None of that Disney's Doug shit on this episode.
We are not touching any of that.
But we are here to talk about 3 big songs by the band, The Beats.
If you've only got 3 on your list, I got some news for you, buddy.
Well, three where we hear the whole song.
Okay, that's okay. Here we go. Fair enough.
Yes. I understand there are nuances. We get a little bit through the mouth of Skeeter. Skeeter, who's Skeeter? Okay, Doug. Mm-hmm. If you don't recall, if you weren't a kid in the 90s, if you didn't have cable in the 90s, Doug was a show on Nickelodeon created by Jim Jenkins, based on his experience growing up in Virginia. I mean, I think a lot of the characters are named after people he knew. And based on people from his real life. And he talks about this somewhere and says that he wrote each of them a letter before the show premiered and was like, hey, just a heads up, this guy with your name, he's kind of like you.
That's funny.
But yeah, it was one of the first Nicktoons. It was one of the first 3 Nicktoons, something that seems ubiquitous at this point, Nickelodeon and cartoons, but they didn't have cartoons when they first started. And they wanted to get into the game, and they picked 3 of them. They picked Doug, Rugrats, and Ren and Stimpy. Pretty diverse group of shows.
You know, they had 2 for younger generation, and then they had 1 for the mid-teen level generation.
Yeah, that's right. I think their goal with Ren and Stimpy was to attract some of that adult cartoon viewing audience, which, according to something I read, wasn't really touched since the Flintstones, which, I always forget that the Flintstones was even an adult cartoon, but it totally was.
Yeah.
It was, it's the Honeymooners, basically, as an animated comedy. But yeah, it was the Family Guy of its time.
Interesting, because, for our generation, it was very much geared toward kids.
Yeah, because it's super tame. It's super tame, and any joke that maybe was not for kids weren't going to get.
That's super common in kids' entertainment, to be fair. Most of it, at least.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Nickelodeon went on to master that, I think. Starting with Rugrats, but especially, SpongeBob SquarePants is the ultimate, wink, wink, here's a joke for you parents or college stoners or whatever it is. Whoever's watching, you can totally enjoy that show. It is not just for kids, but it's totally safe for kids.
Yes, that's correct. I'm not super familiar with SpongeBob, but I have seen a handful of episodes, and I can always find something that's pretty funny within the episode I'm watching.
Yeah, it's great. Ren and Stimpy, I think, was a little more controversial. I don't think parents were into their kids watching that one.
For whatever reason, my parents were fine with me renting the VHS Ren and Stimpy cartoons from the video store.
Sure.
I am one of those kids that you mentioned in the opening of this. I did not have cable. I did not have satellite, so I missed out on any kids show that was not on network television. So Doug, all that. I know that it exists, and I have small frames of reference. I knew Doug's name was Doug Funny. I knew Patty Mayonnaise. I knew Skeeter. And I knew the song Killer Tofu. Somehow, some way, I knew that song still. But outside of that, no frame of reference at all for this or any other cable television show that was geared toward kids when we were growing up.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was a little late to the game. We got cable in, I would say, the mid-90s. So, right when all this stuff was exploding. But I definitely caught these shows in their probably first round of reruns.
Okay, nice.
So, funny thing is when they greenlit these 3 shows, Nickelodeon, the execs, they knew one thing. They knew they had a smash hit with Doug. And they were taking a little bit more of a gamble on the other 2.
Interesting.
Yeah, because the way it played out was, I think Doug was fairly popular, but nowhere near the height that Rugrats ended up reaching, or the somewhat brief but huge mania around Ren and Stimpy.
That's true.
It did not explode out the gate like the other 2, because I don't think it's an explode out the gate kind of show. It's pretty tame. The creator Jim Jenkins has said he's pretty old school. He's like a Southern guy, a little bit religious, I think, and he said he wanted every episode to have like a moral teaching. I don't know if you noticed when you were watching, but these kids never do anything bad, really, outside of Roger the bully, and he always gets his comeuppance.
It's like a cartoon version of Wonder Years in a way.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I mean, even Wonder Years had more like
Oh, for sure.
breaking the rules.
But again, this is way more geared towards children than Wonder Years ever was.
Sure. Not to spoil anything we're going to get into, but there's an episode where they, in order to get into a Beats show, Doug and Skeeter see a equipment van, like, unloading the gear. They, like, glance at it and you think, like, oh, they're going to, like, sneak in, like, hide in a road case or something. And, like, no, they walk over and they're like, excuse me, can we help you? And they're like, sure, kids. This isn't dangerous at all.
Yeah, it's pretty
wholesome.
Yes, it's very wholesome. As a near 40-year-old man watching this for the very first time, I would describe it as unbuttered toast.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I don't disagree at all there. It's 15-minute episodes, and somehow they are quite slow.
Yeah. You watched, 5 episodes of the show, right?
That is correct. I think I watched 6 in the end.
Oh, 6. Okay.
I don't know if you got into the Doug banging on a trash can song.
Yes.
Okay, great.
So I consumed twice as many because I watched the full half-an-hour episodes, whereas you only did the 15-minute increments we were required to do.
Gotcha.
But I only did that because I was completely unfamiliar with the show, so I wanted to have a little bit of extra insight and knowledge into the characters.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I definitely remember. Instantly remembered the very simple plot of each episode when I saw it, and I bet I could piece together the plots of the ones you watched as well.
Well, I can tell you that if you did not watch the second half of one of the episodes, I'm gonna have a little extra bit of Beats info.
Oh, okay. I'm excited for that because I did not.
Nice.
So like I said, the show was created by Jim Jenkins, but the name I kept coming back to in terms of maybe the one person most responsible for all this music stuff that we're going to talk about, Fred Newman.
Oh, yeah.
Did you come across that name? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So Fred Newman was, he's just a key element of this show. He's the voice of Mosquito Valentine, a.k.a. Skeeter, Doug's best friend. He also voices Pork Chop the dog, doing the little arf, Scooby-Doo-esque talking sounds.
Yeah.
He voices a bunch of characters on the show, a bunch of other side characters. But in addition, does the vocal sounds used in the theme song, first of all. The music is way better than the show, in my opinion. Even the theme song, I think, is a really cool thing, and I think it was a fresh thing. I think all these Nickelodeon cartoons that were coming out were fighting against, everything was like a toy brand at the time in cartoon world. Everything was He-Man and Transformers and
Ninja
Turtles, yes.
But I do have a clip of Fred Newman talking about the opening theme song from Doug.
Oh, yeah.
I did the sound design and music. That wasn't Doug's voice, that was actually my voice. We wanted to use as much as we could household objects, things that a kid would have, make it sound innocent, because this is a kid's diary. I tended to do a lot of things with my mouth.
Super talented guy.
Super talented. Yeah, and I think that theme song is really cool. I think first of all, it's very 90s. It's very like stomp. I also think it's unique in a way, in a similar way to the Seinfeld theme song.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Same kind of thing. It wasn't the old usual piano or guitar driven theme song. It was something a little different.
Or an existing song. It wasn't an existing song.
Right. Yeah. A la Happy Days or something like that.
I did find a couple of extra interesting tidbits about Fred Newman. Other things that connect to our childhood, things that I'm actually familiar with.
Oh, yeah. I bet I know what one of them is.
I bet you do.
It's probably his next most known for thing, if you're getting at what I think you're getting at.
Well, there's 2 of them, so you got a 50-50 shot.
Okay.
I don't know in which order I'm going to give them to you, but he voiced Stripe and other Mogwai sounds from Gremlins. He also did the voice of Harry the Bigfoot from Harry and the Hendersons.
Oh, I didn't come across that one.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, pretty cool.
He's got to have crossed paths at some point with this guy, Frank Welker. I don't know if you've heard of Frank Welker, but he is the other sort of dude known for doing like kind of voices in things.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah.
Most famous in my book for Frank Welker is the character of Nibbler on Futurama.
Okay.
Futurama, I would say my favorite television show of all time. And that's not even limiting to animated. I would say it's my favorite show.
Awesome.
But also, speaking of Futurama, Billy West, now very, very famous, maybe one of the most famous voice actors, pure voice actors of all time, voice of Philip J. Fry on Futurama, got his start, or, started into fame as the voice of Doug Funny.
Yes, he did.
Until he was nixed for the Disney version. Another reason we're not going to talk about that one. But I'm happy about it because that might have taken him out of the running somehow for Futurama. You never know.
Yeah, that's fair. It could have.
So I don't know. I don't know what the rules are for voice actors. I'm sure there's contract stuff. You get Disney involved, you never know what's going to happen. So I'm glad things played out the way they did. I think it's cool hearing him as a younger voice actor doing the voice of Doug.
Speaking of being a big fan of Billy West and his work, do you know how he is involved in the Sandlerverse?
Oh, huh. I don't. Is it like 8 Crazy Nights or something?
No, but that's a great guess since it's an animated movie.
Thing. Yeah.
He provided additional character voices for the movie Pixels.
Oh, okay. Pixels. I forgot Pixels was in the Sandlerverse.
Yeah, it certainly is.
So, the Beats. If you've never seen Doug, the Beats are a fictional band in the Doug universe, and they are Doug and Skeeter's favorite band. Well, I think the first episode we see them, they are Skeeter's favorite band, and he introduces their music to Doug.
Right.
The Beats are kind of loosely based on a few different people from music history. The name itself and the logo are references to the Beatles.
I would argue the way that they talk is also a reference to the Beatles.
Oh, definitely there's one member, I actually don't know who's who, I'm realizing, in the Beats, but there's one member who's very Ringo Starr.
That is the drummer.
That is
Flounder.
the drummer. That is Flounder. Okay. I would say he's very Beatles, very Liverpool.
Yes.
The others, I think the most common comparison for Monroe Yoder, the lead singer, is to Roger Daltrey from The Who.
Also, we have Chap Lipman on the guitar and Wendy Nesbaugh on the keys and tuba.
Monroe Yoder and Chap Lipman are both voiced by a voice actor named Doug Price, although he does not sing the songs.
Correct.
Wendy is voiced by an actress named Becca Lish. And Flounder is voiced by Fred Newman, who we talked about earlier. Now, Fred and another gentleman named Dan Sawyer, they actually wrote and performed these songs. And Fred, again, showing off his massive vocal talents and range, provides all the vocals for the Beat songs.
Yeah, again, super talented guy.
Throwing on a pretty good parody British accent on top of it all.
Yeah.
Like, to sing with an accent, that takes a little something.
A lot of people that sing with accents, you can't tell. So it's like the reverse.
Yeah, like famously the Beatles, I think are an example of, you don't really know they're British until they speak.
Do you know what their original name was, Dustin? Did you catch that in the episodes we watched?
Ooh, the Beats' original name? Mm-hmm. I don't remember what it was.
The Pickled Beats.
The Pickled Beats, right. And this is a reference to the fact that the Beatles were at some point briefly the Silver Beatles in real life before they adopted their final name.
Do you remember what their fans are called in the show?
Are they just beatheads?
Beatniks.
Of course, beatniks. Their career is a little hard to track because the first time we see them, they come out with this song Killer Tofu. Mm-hmm. And it's said that this is the new single by the Beats.
Right.
While saying this, Skeeter his room is full of Beats posters and memorabilia. Like, he's a huge fan already, right? Mm-hmm. But then later on, we get word that they shot to international fame on the song Killer Tofu. So I'm really not totally sure how it works out timeline-wise.
Well, international fame is different than Bluffington. I
True.
feel like a lot of bands start off super popular here, not popular internationally, and then they grow to have that success. So that's not necessarily out of reach.
That's fair. That's true. Are they from Bluffington? Like, I just feel like they're obviously from the UK, but it's never said.
What I said now makes me sound like a fucking idiot because they very clearly have UK accents. And I was like, oh, well, bands in America don't fucking have international success. But that's true of bands in the UK. They don't necessarily have international success right away, and they have to build to that. So they need a song to cross over
No, that's
to
totally
other
true.
countries.
That's totally true. And in real life, I think there are cases of bands from here that got famous in Europe first, and bands from there that got famous here first. I don't think that's
sure.
an unheard of story. So, benefit of the doubt that they did have an intricate backstory planned out, and it all makes sense. I don't want to pick it apart too much.
Another thing that I caught a fictional piece of material in these episodes, Dustin. Do you remember Tiger Beat magazine from our youth?
Oh, no, I think that one passed me by. I've heard of it, but I wouldn't say I remember it.
In one of the episodes, there's a Tiger Beats magazine.
Oh, it's sort of it's a reference to that magazine, but also sort of like a Rolling Stone reference because it's like a band name that's a magazine name.
Just to speed run the Beats album titles that I found in the research for this show.
Ooh, yeah.
We have Where Is My Sock? Beats Me, Beat the Heat, Live from New Hampster, The What album, Let It Beat,
Oh, yeah.
and Meet the Beats.
Meet the Beats. So a couple Beatles, straight up Beatles album references at the end. Mm-hmm. What was the sock one? The sock one is referenced later.
Where is my sock?
Where is my
Yes.
sock? That's another confusing timeline thing because the sheriff who helps the kids out in one episode says that they like wrote that song in his basement. That was his sock they were talking about. So maybe they did just come over to the States and start and launch their career here out of Bluffington. That makes sense why they were playing Bluffington the first time we see them, and then the bigger city of Bloatsburg later on.
Hey, maybe. I honestly don't know.
And they also have some songs that are mentioned but not played, like My Foot's Asleep. Well, actually, My Foot's Asleep, we get a little bit of Skeeter singing, but we never hear the Beats recorded version.
We do, and I have a clip.
My foot's asleep. Wow, my foot's asleep. Wow, I got no feeling cause my shoes are cheap. Wow.
Yeah, My Foot's Asleep. We got Where's My Sock? We got I Sneezed on My Face. And apparently in a book, we get Zombie Girlfriend, although that's beyond my Doug knowledge.
Oh, yeah, I didn't go reading any books for this. Are you kidding me? I've stated before, I'm a dumb boy. But you are a little bit off, Dustin, because Where Is My Sock? I have a clip for that.
Do you really?
I'm a beathead from the time they were making basement tapes. In my basement.
It's in the background, but you still hear it,
That's true. You do. I didn't notice it over that super like discordant, off-putting sounding siren that is being made by someone's mouth. Likely Fred Newman. I'm almost certain it's Fred Newman.
1,000% it was Fred. And there's a little bit of a spin on Where Is My Sock with Where's My Hair?
Sorry.
Okay. Well, I stand corrected. I said there was no recording of that one, but I was wrong.
Oh, hey, man, they're so fast, it's insanely easy to miss. I totally get it.
Before we get into the real songs here, you can tell that one was a lesser recording session. Like, you could tell they were like, we need to bust this out for this episode real quick.
For sure. And circling back to I Sneezed on My Face real quick, they do mention in the episode that was their first #1 single.
Well, that's fun. Do you have anything else you wanted to touch on before we get into their rocket ship to stardom that is Killer Tofu?
No, we can get right into the tofu, buddy. I'm good with that.
Before we do anything else, in case you're not familiar, here's a little bit of Killer Tofu.
I always thought I was such a nerd. I refused to touch that strange bean curd. I wouldn't eat it. Wow, but it ate you. I-E-O, killer tofu. E-I.
It's a rad song.
Sure is. Okay, when I hear this song, I think a lot of things. First of all, I think nostalgically of hearing it for the first time. Mm-hmm. But looking at it now, the first thing I think is Weird Al.
Okay.
Because it's such a food-focused song. There's nothing particularly Weird Al-y about the music. It's just, that's a very him move to do a song about food, and it's like a wholesome song. It's like about how you should eat good food for your body.
Well, he had a whole food album. It was the food album.
Oh yeah, the food album.
Dustin, I have a live version of Killer Tofu done by Fred and Dan. Would you like to hear that?
Ooh, I would.
Got the crowd clapping and singing along.
Oh yeah. Man, it's by the way, it's amazing seeing that interview with him that he can still hit those high notes perfectly with no preparation. It seems like he just busts it out.
yeah, it's pretty good.
This song, okay. Here's where we get into, like, these songs are good. For as, like, milquetoast as the show can be, these songs are awesome. The beats get all the comparisons to the Beatles and the Stones and the Who and stuff, like, based on how they look and talk and act and their Britishness. But, like, they don't sound anything like those bands.
No.
What the beats, at least in this song, and each song is a little bit different in terms of how I would fit them into a genre. But for this song, like, this is totally dripping like British new wave stuff, like do you know the band Squeeze?
Not by name.
Everybody wants a hand, but behind the chalet, a holiday.
I don't know this song, but I guess I can see how you could put that together.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a couple clips here. Honestly, I'll just run through them real quick and lay out sort of my take on British new wave that maybe these guys were listening to when they were doing the Killer Tofu recording. This one's by a band called XTC. It's called Senses Working Overtime. And then I think there's also a little bit of the band The English Beat, which I bet you know this song.
I know the English Beat.
Okay.
And I do know this song.
The last band that I get hints of in the Beats Killer Tofu is The Replacements. Something like their song Alex Chilton.
Yeah, okay. I hear the English Beat the least of the four examples that you've said, just in terms of Killer Tofu.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I was going on a little journey earlier on the old YouTube, so don't hold me to any of this. But that's the kind of stuff that came to mind. And all of those bands, except for the last one, The Replacements, were part of like the same British scene and era.
My analysis of the beats is way simpler than yours, and I was like, oh, I don't know, it sounds more like the Ramones to me.
Oh, no, totally, there's Ramones in there. There's Ramones in there for sure. Yes, I hear Ramones the least on Killer Tofu. I was going to bring them up a little later.
Ramones are more need more allowance. Like that's more Ramonesy. But yes, yeah, we can kick that down the line because I have more things to talk about for Killer Tofu here, Dustin.
Oh yeah, what do you got?
Well, first off, I think we should talk about the album that came out in 2015 called Songs from Bluffington. The artist is Doug and the Beats. It's a cover album of them just doing various songs from the show. And the album is done by three men, Chris Wall, David Kaplan, and Matthew Fox. And I think we should take a listen to their cover of it because it's pretty dang good.
Yeah.
They're not really doing anything new or anything to change it. It's a pretty straightforward cover, but it sounds great.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. And these are songs that were not available on streaming, not officially.
Exactly.
At least. So I think they did a great service by putting them out there in a preserved sort of true to how it was in the show form.
Yeah.
That punchy bass line on that one makes me feel even better about my Replacements comparison.
For sure. And then, Dustin, so here's where my watching extra content comes into play.
Yeah.
One of the episodes of Doug, he goes to the dentist office, and they are playing a dentist office version of Killer Tofu in the background of this scene.
Oh, really? Like a Muzak version?
After seeing what happened to Mr. Dink's teeth, I decided that the best thing to do was to go to the dentist. I mean, it couldn't be as bad as everybody said it was. Dental College of New Hampshire, Dr. K, DDS. Maybe there's nothing to be afraid of after all.
Furry, Doug Furry, Furry, Doug Furry.
Well, that's funny, and I'm right here.
Follow me. Your examination starts.
Pretty good.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good little Easter egg.
Yeah, I was just casually watching that episode. I was like, are they doing like an elevator version of Killer Tofu right now?
I definitely would not have caught that. So the next time the Beats show up in Doug's world is in an episode called Doug Meets Robo-Bone, which is him being persecuted by his evil vice principal, Mr. Bone.
I really enjoyed how he was very clearly Don Knotts inspired.
Total Don Knotts. I probably thought it was Don Knotts playing him, honestly.
Yeah, for sure, yeah.
But yeah, that dude's a dick, man. He's like, I don't want those Beats playing at my school with their rock and roll music. It's like they sing about like eating healthy. They're not like bad boys.
Right.
But whatever. We find out that what Mr. Bone really wants is to perform with his band, the Bluffington Yodelers. Mm-hmm. And he gets that chance in the end when he comes to a compromise with Doug, because that's what you do. You come to a compromise. It's a very good way for it to play out for all parties in any sort of conflict. Mm-hmm. He agrees to have his band, the Bluffington Yodelers, open for the Beats.
We only get like literally a second of the Bluffington Yodelers yodeling.
I'd listen to more
before the Beats come out, but we do get a lot more yodeling from Robo-Bone and the Bonettes.
And as everyone knows, Robo-Bone and the Bonettes soon became a musical sensation, winning new fans wherever their out-of-this-world world tour took them.
Not bad.
Not bad.
Especially once they start yodeling in the same key.
Yeah, it comes together. Mm-hmm. That, and more so the little bit we go to the Bluffington Yodelers. I'm like, I can get into the right headspace to appreciate yodeling or other like sort of traditional European music. Mm-hmm. But I think the most important thing that the yodeling does, it influences last minute the Beats to add a little something to their song, I Need Mo Allowance.
Yep.
So I Need Mo Allowance, more of a straightforward metal style rock song. I feel like I can definitely hear the hair metal influences in here. One thing I noticed in this song is there's this like breakdown near the end. I got to find it back. Here we go.
I need to buy some CDs, I need to buy some gum. I mow the grass, I clean the house, I think I deserve some.
That bit of the song, you know what I immediately thought of when I heard that?
Mark Knopfler coming back in, baby.
His little like talk singing bit at the end of Money for Nothing.
That's funny.
That ain't working.
But so I Need Mo Allowance in general. I don't know what comes to mind for you. For me, I think of any number of sort of hair metal acts that were around in the mid to late 80s. When I hear I Need Mo Allowance. Just for fun, Sean, because I might be able to show you something new here. The band I came up with as an example of this same type of music is the band Fastway. Do you know the band Fastway?
The name of the band sounds familiar. But I don't know.
So I'm going to play you a clip from their song Trick or Treat, which is from a film soundtrack of the same name. I've never seen it.
I don't know this, no.
So that singer, does that singer sound familiar to you at all?
Oh, I wasn't paying close enough attention. I didn't know that I had to.
I'm going to give it to you again. Listen to the voice this time.
All right, I know it's not him, but I'm going to say Vince Neil.
No, it is a singer by the name of Dave King.
I'm a huge Dave King guy.
You are a huge Dave King guy. You just don't know it because we've seen him perform live together before. We've seen him in concert before.
Oh, I mean, we've... Dropkick?
Flogging Molly.
Oh. Okay, yeah. Yes, we have seen Flogging Molly together. That is true. Like twice, I think.
But yeah, he had a whole other life as the singer of this band Fastway, which also featured the guitarist from Motorhead.
Nice.
Yeah, a little diversion from Doug, but I wanted to take you on a journey there.
Yeah, hey, man, why not? It is interesting that you hear so much of the hair metal stuff, and I, once again, didn't.
Oh, yeah?
Again, this just sounds like a Ramones song to me. I said that earlier. They just sound like the Ramones to me.
This is all speculative, and I always feel weird coming into the show with these things that are in my brain, and I'm like, well, it seems right in my brain, but I don't know. I've just only been thinking about it this way and wanting it to line up. So, I could be totally full of shit, and you can tell me that, and the listeners can tell me that for sure.
Only Fred and Dan know for sure.
Well, they can tell me. I would love for them to tell me that.
I would love that too.
They have listened to, that they are either fans of or have never heard these bands that we've talked about.
Well, I think we should move on to Shout Your Lungs Out.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Moving on to Shout Your Lungs Out. Do you have a clip?
Pretty good song.
Okay, this song makes me think of a few things.
Okay.
First of all, it's totally a toy commercial from when we were kids. Can't you just imagine, that song playing now with launching Battle Action Rocket? Yeah! It's totally that, inoffensive, high-energy guitar thing that was always under, Action Toys, specifically.
Sure.
The other thing that immediately comes to mind, much like the Dire Straits comparison, is what they're doing with the guitar here immediately draws my mind to this.
Oh, okay. Get a little knack in there.
A little knack, yeah, a little My Sharona.
Yeah, I can hear that in there for sure.
What are your thoughts on Shout Your Lungs Out?
I enjoyed this song. I didn't know it before we started the prep for this show today. Mm-hmm. I like it more than I Need Mo Allowance.
I think I Need Mo Allowance is my least favorite. Not to go back to it too much, but I do get what you're saying about the Ramones thing. It is like a Ramones style topic. Like if they were well-to-do kids who had allowances instead of wanting to sniff glue.
Sure, yeah, uh-huh.
But it was this sort of thing they would complain about in a song.
Right, yeah.
I already gave you my two biggest takeaways from Shout Your Lungs Out. It's a total toy commercial song, and it reminds me of My Sharona. Here's another wild card one, and this is another song from our youth. But I am getting shades of this song by the Suicide Machines, New Girl, if you remember this from Tony Hawk Pro Skater games.
This has got a little bit more ska in the guitar, but that screaming.
The screaming part, yeah. I queued it up to the chorus for that reason. I think if Shout Your Lungs Out was a song in our real world, it might sound a little bit like that song. Yeah, obviously, like you said, there's a ska element that is nowhere, it's not present at all in the Beats song.
Right.
But I don't know. It's, again, when I listen to these songs, sometimes I just sit and I let the synapses in my brain fire, and if something wants to connect, I go, well, I'll explore that, and maybe I'm onto something, or maybe I'm full of shit, but I present it to you all.
Yeah, interesting insight today, Dustin. I did not bring any of that.
Interesting is such a kind word for you to use.
No, that wasn't a disparaging way for me to say it. I was genuinely interested in what you've been bringing to I agreed with most of it.
Dude just showed up and started playing random songs today.
Oh, good gravy.
So that kind of wraps up the official songs in the show from the Beats. Mm-hmm. But there is one more song I wanted to talk about.
Oh, good. I'm glad that you only have one.
What do you have?
5.
5?
Yeah.
Well, then you go first, because I only have one, so I got to save it.
Well, I'm pretty sure I know what that is, so I'll go ahead and not do that first.
Okay. What extra stuff did you find?
So we have another band called Roger Klotz and the Ulcers.
Oh, I didn't know Roger had a band.
It's from an episode called Doug's No Dummy.
Okay.
Doug is about to perform in a talent show, but he's not ready, so they send Roger and his band on first.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
And now Doug is practicing his ventriloquism act while they're performing on stage.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So yeah, we get a little sample. I gotta assume that song's called I Got a Ton, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah, it's pretty much the only line we hear over and over. Yeah, I remember the ventriloquist thing. I remember that plot line vaguely. Like, I remember seeing Doug with a dummy.
Moving on, Dustin, I have a rap song performed by one Doug Funny.
Oh, yes. I have heard this.
And the song is called Yo Doug.
Doug, that's my name. Doug Funny. If you're trying to ring my number and you can't get through, baby, don't you give up, cause I really need you to tell me all those things that I wanna hear. I need a homegirl's voice whispering in my ear. Doug. Yo, Mr. D to you. Dougie.
I need a homegirl's voice whispered in my ear. That's... What episode was that?
That's from an episode called Doug's Secret Song.
Oh, okay. Yeah. You should have kept it a secret. No, it's great. I mean, it sounds like a lot of people who tried to rap.
And speaking of rapping, I have one more rap song. This is apparently Pork Chop's favorite song. It's called The Doggy Rap.
I'm a dog, you're a dog, everybody do the dog. Bet you're gonna do the dog all day long. Doberman, Pinscher, Beagle, Pekingese, Corgi, Collie, Bulldog, Great Pyrenees. Chase a car, there you are, sleeping round the clock.
Now, this one kind of sounds like a Lonely Island song to me.
Yeah, I can see. It sounds more like a song.
It's also just a big list.
It is a big list.
It's just a big list of dogs.
Yes. Yeah, totally. It's a list of dogs, but the person who's rapping it is doing so with a natural rhythm that that Doug didn't have in his.
No, he did not have it at all. He was so offbeat. But I mean, like an 11-year-old kid would probably be that offbeat. So it does fit more with the character of Doug not getting it right.
That's fair.
Before we get to the one that I'm saving for you to reveal, Dustin, we have one more. And the song is called Patty, You're the Mayonnaise for Me.
Okay.
Patty, you're the pickle on my coleslaw. Patty, you're the sugar in my tea. Patty, you're the relish on my hot dog. And Patty, you're the mayonnaise for me. Whoa.
I remember that one. I do remember that one. Yeah.
And Dustin, what's the extra song that you had to bring to the table here?
So the last song I thought we would talk about is the sort of culmination of Doug and his friends' obsession with the beats, where they get inspired to make some music of their own. Mm-hmm. This one starts out as a little ditty called "Banging on a Trash Can," when he and Skeeter are literally banging on trash can lids, and it morphs into a more epic song called "Banging on a Trash Can," parentheses, think big.
Calling me, calling me, calling. One little voice is calling me, calling me.
Bing! You got to think.
This is very much like a musical, this song.
It's kind of musical feeling. I mean, I think they get into how it's a bit of a mishmash of lots of different styles and instruments in the episode.
Sure.
Well, first of all, in the music video for this song, Doug is, for most of it, in a Michael Jackson costume.
Yes,
He's
he
in
is,
like a leather jacket with the one glove. But I don't think this song is particularly Michael Jackson-y.
No.
I think that's a visual reference.
Yeah.
Later in the video, we get him in the big suit from the Talking Heads.
Right.
And I do think there's a little more Talking Heads influence in this song.
I would agree with that for sure. Definitely way more than Michael Jackson.
Yeah. The drum stuff that's going on, the sort of like bongo stuff that's going on.
I also love the like wailing guitar from this song.
The like Prince guitar?
Yeah.
It's total Prince guitar.
It's really good.
Yeah, no, it's great.
So Dustin, you know how we end every episode here.
I sure do.
Would you listen to the Beats or any other band mentioned today? The Bluffington Yodelers, the Robobone and the Bonettes, Doug Funny on his own, Roger Klotz and and the ulcers, any of that stuff. Would you check it out if that was real music being produced in our reality?
I would definitely check out most of it. I think the beats were given enough variety from them that I would definitely be interested to hear what more they had.
They had so many albums for us to dive into if they were real. So
yeah, I mean that were listed for our the audience's benefit. I mean,
yeah, they probably had more. Exactly. Yeah,
I would totally listen to some beats. I would sit for a night of yodeling. I would give that a shot. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. You know, it's especially in the way that the Bluffington Yodelers are presented as the small town sort of thing, and it's done at the school. I would go to an event like that. But if you were like, oh, hey man, let's go down to the whatever popular stadium in your major city and let's watch the Bluffington Yodelers. I probably wouldn't do that.
No, yes. The appeal is the quaintness of them. It reminds me of, like, I went to see polka bands with my grandma at my school while I was not in school when I was a kid. So yeah, that it appeals to me in that way. Mm-hmm. You know, and I just I'll listen to anything for a little bit. There are very few types of music that just straight up put me off.
Fair.
Well, folks, I hope you've enjoyed our little journey into Bluffington and the songs of Bluffington from the Beats and Doug and all the friends. And I hope you've enjoyed the maybe weird, out of left field songs that I've played in comparison to those.
I don't think that they're even out of left field. I have given you the wrong impression of how I have enjoyed your insights to these songs, Dustin.
This is not even based on anything you've said. It's my own internal insecurities coming out. I always get nervous when I feel like this was a big swing episode, kind of like the Velvet Goldmine one. That was a big swing episode. You know, that one's not as of recording. That one's not released yet, but that's one that I'm most nervous about. What people have to say about what I had to say, because I don't know if I'm right.
You're gonna have to email us at fictionradiopod@gmail.com to tell us how you're feeling right now.
I would love to get an email from someone just telling me, like, you're so full of shit, you're so off base. I would relish that email, honestly.
Oh, do not send that shit directed at me.
On that note, please do send us your emails with ideas for things you want us to talk about, thoughts you have on things we've said. Honestly, if it's good or bad, I'd love to read it. I'd love to hear it. If it's good, I'd love for you to post it on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify or wherever you're listening to this, because that would help us get listened to by even more folks like yourselves.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week on K-Flix Fiction Radio.
Watching movies and jamming out. K-Flix 198.4 Fiction Radio.